Hi friends, Andrea here with a new video for Scrap Academy. Today, as you can see, all those ink pads are here because we are going to be talking about how to use them as a coloring medium and not with stamps. So I have some of the Stamp Market ink pads, some Prima ink pads, some Tim Holtz Distress inks and Distress Oxide inks. And the idea is I'm going to be doing some fussy cutting. I have some of this, as you can see, black and white pattern papers that I'm going to be coloring. And I'm also using a white piece of textured cardstock. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm adding some gesso in the background because I'm using some of these ink pads to add color to my background. So I'm not going to use watercolors. I'm not going to use any other products but ink pads. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to take this Distress inks. I'm going to start with the greens to color the leaves on this flower. And I'll try to leave most of the process for you to follow. All I'm doing here is I sprayed some water on the ink, and then with a fine brush I'm just spreading it and using them as regular watercolors. It will depend, the effect that you'll get will depend on how much water or how much of the pigment, how much of the color you pick when you are doing this. These papers are not that thick, but not super thin either. So you can play with adding either more pigment or more water depending on how dark or how light you want your color to be on the paper. Right, and then here we are doing the exact same thing. I wanted to go with the same tones, the same colors. Okay, I'll be using the same plastic bag, and now I'm taking some of the Distress Oxide inks and some of the regular Distress inks, but I needed a darker color, so that Stamp Market ink pad, the red, is the one, I believe the name is Cherry, is the one that it's going to give us the darkest color. So the drill is the same. Spray with a little bit of water, and then you'll get a darker or a lighter color depending on how much of the color you get with your brush. So here, and it depends also on, you can definitely combine colors or different, what I'm doing here is combining different tones of the same color, but you can do whatever you want. And some darker color in the center of the flower, and then just trying to play with it. Okay, we're gonna do the third flower here. I think at that point I thought of playing with different colors, try to do, but then because of what I wanted to do with them, I figured that I would leave them all this looking all relatively the same, because I already knew that there will be tons and tons of colors on this layout, and you will definitely see what I'm talking about in just a few minutes. I wanted to try, I know the video looks a little bit long, but I wanted to leave the coloring process almost as intact as possible, so you could see how it transforms, how we get to the final product, how we get to how we get the flowers to look like they did, and what I did to make this happen. Okay, so we have the flowers ready. I would recommend to use paper towels for this if you want to reuse the same bag. Okay, so as you can see, I already have some yellow, pink, some white and gray layers happening here. And I'm now gonna go with some yellows for the background. So what we're gonna do here is not coloring, but using the packaging technique to create a colorful background. Doesn't have to be perfect. I was definitely not aiming for perfection, just wanted to play with the color. And white, yellow, I think I wanted to go with the same color that I had on the opposite side of the layout. All right, and here before I fussy cut the houses, I am coloring some of them as well. You can see, and we're gonna change the colors. And I thought that I wanted to get different tones of yellow here, so that's why I did use the distress oxide, because I know how well they react to water. So doing it, I was not concerned of how that was gonna look once I just used it directly on to the background. The same with the Stamp Market ink pads, especially since I have the gesso on the background. Anything that I do, really, it's going to react with the water, and it's gonna allow me to keep playing with it until I'm ready. Now I'll be fussy cutting the flowers, the houses, to start putting that layout together. As of now, we're working on separate pieces. We're doing the coloring, we're working on the background, but I have not been able, even though I knew what I wanted to do, even though I had the idea, it was very clear in my mind what I wanted to do. Until this point, I hadn't had the opportunity to see clearly what was going to happen and what we were doing. So before I start working on that, and this is going really fast, but the main thing is I keep working with the ink pads, and I'm gonna now mix the texture paste with the yellows, and I'm gonna be using an stencil to create some texture, but I wanted that texture to be also yellow. So I'm just finding the stencil I want to use. We're gonna go with one from Vicky Button, and here we go. And this shows you, so to this point, this is the last thing that we are gonna be doing with the ink pads. So what we did today was we used them as watercolors to add color to black and white or white and black pattern paper to color those shapes we already had. We also used it for our main background with the packaging technique, and then we mixed it with some texture paste to give it some color and then apply it through a stencil. And then now you saw that there is, on your left, you can see there's a lot of fussy cutting that happened off camera. Okay, and the photo that I'll be using is, it's a photo of our new house, and this is what the layout is about. It's just a reminder of that special moment when we saw it, when we decided that this is it, this is the next step, and it's now there. In that pocket it's a Pink Fresh Studio pocket. It was perfect for the size of my photo and for this layout, and just to keep it hidden. Okay, now I will be layering. There are many houses, many homes from different pattern papers, different collections that I fussy cut. And now I'm going to start layering. So on the left, you see all the blue ones, and those are different crepe paper, Jane Hadfield, also crepe paper, Maggie Holmes. I do have a Hip Kit Club exclusive die cut that is in the shape of a home. And the thing, in some of you see that some of the fussy cut ones are the ones that we colored from that Jane Hadfield paper. I think I wanted to use that tree, but in the end, it doesn't make it into this layout. It definitely does not make it. I think we do something else in the end. Okay, we go with the rainbows. And as I said, I am now layering them and placing the different ones, the color ones, black and white, bigger, smaller. still deciding where to put some of the final die cuts and details. Trying to find a way that not all of the homes look like they're just floating in the air, but that there is a reason. I think also that paper with the squares allows me to play with that, allows me to make sure that they don't really look like they're just floating there. There's a few details. These were rosettes, embellishments, and I just took the circles. I took this one, and then we take another one. Not sure where that one's gonna go yet. I tried to go with that, but it was just too big and the same pink, so the flower didn't look as good anymore. Also try to play with some of this, but the green on the leaves was extremely different from the original leaves that I had. So I went with some enamel dots at the bottom right and the top left. Okay, a few other details. I end up adding my journaling on a separate card, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm looking for the perfect card, and I end up with one page from Stamp Market, and it's this one that says this story and remember this. I'm gonna use both sides. I do some machine stitching off camera to keep those two, to keep them together. And then it's just a matter of adding the journaling. Now, after I added my journaling, I realized that the full house, full heart phrase that I had on that pocket was not enough or did not work exactly as I wanted for the title of this page. So you'll see me after this I felt like the layout was still not complete, even though there is a lot happening. There's lots of pattern paper in the background and the flowers and the fussy cut houses. So there is still a lot going on, but there is still space, and that's what I'm figuring. There is still lots of pink there that I could easily play with without disturbing. And by the time I did that, phone was off. So you can see that I end up adding the celebrate phrase. It's a celebrate this. These are 4 different stickers from Maggie Holmes, and I added the date, and then I felt that my layout was complete. So lots of color, but I think it all works perfectly. And as you can see, all the details and everything, and we got all that from the ink pads. That was the main thing. So the ink pads end up being really, really useful, not just for stamping, but for many other things. As I said, we played today with texture paste to color it. We played with creating a colored background. We colored. You can use them for stamping and coloring your own stamps. So that is a great way to use them. I hope you enjoyed this video and you feel inspired to grab those ink pads and play with them in different ways and get creative. And let me know if you have any other ideas, if you use them for to do or to make some other things. I would love to see what you come up with. This was Andrea for Scrap Academy, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.